Make sure you hold on to your hats because we are going to throw a lot of stuff at you as we glide right into the finish. So make sure that you run right for that favorite spot and celebrate the fall season with us. Sportsnight is next. What's your whole mission?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Night. I'm Joe Young.
And I'm Howie Shapiro.
Don't adjust your screen. It is November.
You got the beard there growing. I kind of like it. It's starting to look
It's
good. It's starting to fill in.
A
little gray, but it's starting to fill in.
There's a lot more salt these days, but a lot to get through. Going to wrap up the fall season. Obviously, the swimming and diving team still in action. They have sections later this week. But other than that, everybody is done. Paul Breitbach competing in the state tournament last Saturday at St. Olaf, and he finishes his career with a 33rd place finish, 16 minutes, 13.5 seconds. Nearly cuts his position in half from last year, and I want to say he took off 30 to 45 seconds from last year's time.
Great. Congratulations again. It's just, the success he's had in this program. It's been amazing.
Yeah, and he's been a big part of the program for a very long time. But Breitbach is one of only 6 seniors in the Cardinals cross-country program. So both boys and girls teams will have a lot of talent returning to the trail next season. Cardinals took great strides this year. Everyone showed improvements in time, and most were peaking when tournament time came around. It was a season full of smaller successes that will help them toward their ultimate goal. At the start of the year, the boys really felt this was their time. They had Breitbach to lead the way, and they had a lot of depth, a number of younger runners with speed and talent. The Cardinals hoped that mix was just right to put them in contention for one of the top 2 spots in the conference and section. Well, it didn't quite play out that way, but the Cardinals did show significant gains from the start of the year to the end. They finished middle of the pack at both the Northwest Suburban and the 5AA meets. Breitbach became the first Cardinal runner to earn all-conference honors 4 times, and he finished his career with 3 trips to the state championships. Breitbach, the only senior running at those meets for Coon Rapids. Behind him were 3 juniors and 3 sophomores. Junior Nick Jorgensen and sophomore Noah Christensen and Reed Smith earned honorable mention at the conference meet. And along with their classmates, they will make for a very formidable roster in 2018. Girls were even younger than the boys. They had just 2 seniors on their roster of 23 girls. Cardinals' best represented class, 2022, with 7 8th graders on the team. With that much youth, the team's goals were realistic from the start. Continued improvement from each runner, and everybody turning in their fastest times at the end. Few injuries along the way increased the pressure on the team's younger runners, and they stepped up to the challenge. The team's 2 seniors, Hattie Bio and Ashley Tilke, were on the varsity course for both of the championship meets, but the big finishes were coming from the lower levels. Sophomore Sarah Eichstad led the Cardinals at the conference meet, earning honorable mention with a 30th place finish, and 8th grader Julie Headland had the best time at sections, also finishing in 30th. Cardinals finished 10th place in both events. Across the board, the improvements were encouraging. Of the 46 runners competing at sections in both varsity and JV, 37 put up personal records and 3 others had season best times. Makes for a very bright-looking future on both sides of the ledger for Coach Green. There you see it, only a couple of names. Paul Breitbach with K-Man, Ed May, Kevin Plotty and Jeff Smith. Hattie Bio and Ashley Telke were the 2 senior girls.
Yeah, it's nice to have that youth in the program, and just losing a few seniors really bodes well for both obviously the boys and the girls next year, because they've gained that experience, they've increased their times over the year, and those are the things you have to work on as you go into next season.
Well, and there's a couple of programs we'll talk about throughout the show, but the girls team, cross-country team, has amazing contributions from that 8th, 9th grade classes especially. They've only got a handful of sophomores and juniors as well. The boys team, again, that depth will really be coming of age next year. They'll be stocked with juniors and seniors, and they should be fun to watch.
Absolutely, no question about it. Well, the girls' tennis team is always the first to start and the first to finish the fall season. This wasn't exactly a rebuilding year for the Cardinals, but they're young and their future looks bright. The team got solid leadership from the 4 seniors this year, but many of the top spots were filled by underclassmen who will be back to try and move the program forward. There are a lot of new faces and new places to start the season for the Cardinals, and the lineup changed a lot early as they tried to find the right mix. It led to a much slower start than the Cards had hoped for, and they lost their first 5 and 8 of their first 10 matches. Still, there were positive storylines. The Cardinals were competitive in most of the losses, and the doubles team of Emma Newton and Carly Nelson won their first 8 matches during that stretch. Things certainly got better as the season progressed, and there's no question they were playing their best at the end. The Cardinals suffered another 7-match losing streak in the middle of the schedule, but rebounded to win 4 of their final 5 matches in the regular season. They finished with a 7-16 record, 5-8 in the conference. But those numbers could have easily been better. The Cardinals lost 5 matches by a 3-4 score. However, they were able to fare better in those close matches at the end of the year, winning 3 of their last 4 matches that were decided by a single spot. The Cardinals' strong finish earned them a home match to open the section tournament, and they easily blew past Minneapolis Edison before ending their season with a loss to St. Michael Albertville in the second round. The Cardinals had 2 wins in the first of the individual section, but no one made it past the second round. Still, it was a great experience as 4 of the 6 girls at sections were underclassmen. 4 seniors will not be easy to replace in a 10-person lineup, but the Cardinals do have a lot of depth, and the younger members got great experience this season. So they should be back with the pieces they need to get back where they want to be.
There are your seniors: Jordan Keller, Maddie Westra, Maya Mochinsky, and Megan Spielbauer. A lot of those top spots, especially the singles lineup. Westra was typically in that 3rd spot.
Yep.
The rest of the singles lineup will pretty much be intact. That Nelson Newton team will be senior next year, so they'll be fun to watch. They've got a lot of pieces coming back.
They do,
and it's a rebuilding. This is a program that just had a couple of 20-win seasons just a couple of years ago. They're working their way back. It doesn't happen overnight, but they've got some nice things and some good things happen for them this year.
And it's one of those sports where you have to continually put in the work to get better, and that's a sport where obviously in the winter you're obviously not going to play outdoors, but you've got an opportunity to go indoors and improve your game and then continue on until next season.
Absolutely. Well, the volleyball team had a kind of a crazy start to the season. The Cardinals didn't have a head coach until after the blackout period before tryouts had started. That meant new head coach John Enns didn't get a chance to meet most of his players until it was time to fill his varsity roster. It wasn't ideal, but the Cards seemed to buy in quickly and come together to get through it. Cardinals lost their first 4 matches, but they were competitive in almost every set and were able to take a couple here and there. That really was the story of the season for this squad. While their record wasn't pretty, their results showed progress along the way. They kept scores close and forced a lot of extra sets and matches they might have been swept in years past. A big focus for Coach Enns was helping the girls gain some confidence that would help them battle back from early deficits and also teach them to be more comfortable playing with a lead. That lesson, while hard to see on paper, was certainly learned by the Cardinals squad by the end. They were far more competitive at the end of the schedule, and hopefully it will continue forward into next year. Cardinals finished the season 7-17 and were swept out of the first round of the playoffs by a very strong Wyzetta squad. They will lose 4 very good senior leaders, all of whom spent multiple years in the varsity lineup. It will not be easy to fill the holes they leave behind, but the Cardinals did get some significant contributions from the lower grade levels this year. It was a season full of small successes for a team that is growing and learning. Hopes are certainly high that this program will continue to move forward. They will have a fair amount of experience back and should be a little more comfortable coming into next fall with John Enns having a full year under his belt. It was never have we've seen a lot of coaches changes in a lot of different sports, but I don't know that we've ever seen one that close to when the season begins.
And you look at those seniors, Joe, they are losing some contributors that have contributed to this program over the years. And Coach Enns said, the thing with his program is that as the season progressed, his team got a little bit better, and we saw that in that home win that we did earlier in the season. And they faced a Wyzetta team that had a similar record, but was just hitting on all cylinders that day.
Yang, Fosland, Koss, and Hintze.
Yep.
Just to name them, but one of the things was he looked at the end of the year, they went 4 with Blaine, and they kept all 3 of their losses were relatively close. Bengals, a team that had swept them the year before, and he wanted those numbers to compare side by side and say, kind of show that progress to the girls and that their efforts are paying off. And it looks like I like Coach Enns.
I do as well.
And it seems to be a good fit, and hopefully he will stick around for a while and things will take a positive turn. We will certainly be here to watch.
We will, and having that late start really, I think, hurt him a little bit. So now he's got that opportunity to a full off season to continue to grow that program and hopefully get some other young ladies coming out for that program as well.
I agree.
Well, the season isn't quite over for the swimming and diving team with the section championships coming up this week, and a couple of girls have a very good chance of advancing to state. This is another young squad that is growing and improving every time they compete. It started with a huge surge in numbers at the start of the season and finished with almost every girl showing significant drops in their times. From the start of the year, the goal was clear for this team. Work hard, do your best, and turn in your best times when it matters most. It wouldn't really matter how they did in the meets. They were already winners. The team nearly doubled in size from the previous season, which meant things were moving in the right direction. And of the 35 girls in the pool, exactly 0 are seniors, only 4 juniors and 4 sophomores. So the majority of the girls will be around at least 3 more years. In fact, nearly half the team, 17 girls, are still in middle school. That should mean great things for the future, especially if they can continue to grow their numbers. Even with all that youth, the Cardinals have a handful of girls at the top that are among the best in the conference and section in their events. Those girls were always guaranteed to score solid points for the team in their duels. And with more of the younger contributors coming along later in the season, the Cardinals were more competitive. They were able to score a couple of wins along the way, including beating Park Center and Irondale in the Northwest Suburban Tournament. It was the depth that helped them turn the tide in that one. They had a number of 3rd through 5th place finishes that got them past the Knights, a team they had beaten them early in the season. The work isn't quite finished with the section championship still coming up this week. There's a good chance that at least 1 and hopefully more girls will qualify for state. Regardless of what that plays out, however, the Cardinals will return next fall with a lot more experience, a lot more talent, and maybe, just maybe, they'll find some more numbers as well. And that would be really huge for this team.
Yeah, I mean, nearly doubling in size in 1 year speaks volumes of the job that they're doing recruiting, and you're seeing a lot of them at the middle school because the girls are going and getting them and talking those girls that are they are getting a few more girls who swim club to come out and swim high school instead during the high school season, and that should mean great things for the program moving forward as well. Section 7 AA tournament Thursday through Saturday of this week. State tournament down at the University of Minnesota Aquatic Center Thursday through Friday of next week. Boys soccer team had a solid season, but they're one of the few programs that will be hit hard by graduation. Cardinals had 9 seniors on the squad. That includes most of their leading scorers and their starting goalkeeper. They played well this year, but they will have a ton to try to replace next season. The Cardinals felt as though they let one get away from them in the season opener when they lost to section rival Forest Lake 4-3, but they rebounded well, scoring back-to-back wins against conference opponents Elk River and Park Center. Throughout the schedule, the Cardinals traded wins with losses. They endured an especially frustrating stretch late in the season when they just couldn't get their offense going. Cardinals had 8 games from mid-September into early October when they got more than 1 goal just 2 times. They were 1-5-2 in those games, and a few more goals could have easily flipped that record. Cardinals were able to close out the regular season on a high note, beating Spring Lake Park 3-1. That helped them secure the 4th seed in the Section 7 AA tournament, which meant a home game to start the postseason. Cardinals beat 5th seeded St. Francis 4-3 in a seesaw battle before their season ended in the semifinals at the hands of eventual section champion and state 3rd place finisher Duluth East. The team's 7-8-2 record isn't going to get anybody too excited, but that is not going to be an easy mark for the Cardinals to achieve next year. With the losses to graduation, this team will need a lot of younger players to really step up their game and come back bigger, stronger, faster, and better if they hope to improve on that record. There were only a handful of underclassmen that got significant time this year, so the pressure is really on them will be big to try and keep this program moving forward in 2018. And there are your seniors. It's not just the number, but the names. LePage, the starting keeper, Achi, and especially Gael. Tom Way has been such a huge part of this offense for the last 4 seasons. Ethan Mosier, Andrew Findlay, Katoya Calliste, or as we call him, Sweetness, Alex Lynch, Matt Wicklund, and Nick Novak, your 9 seniors.
A lot of leaders.
They do, but they got some nice minutes from those few guys that got. There were a few guys in the lower levels, guys like Almir Begic. They got a lot of time and they looked very good. But the pressure on those few that had a lot of starting time this year will be huge when they come back next fall.
Well, yeah, and some of those younger players who will step up next year, they're going to have to be the leader, and they're going to have to motivate some of those younger players to play up to what they feel they can accomplish. And you're right, though, losing the leadership that they have, that's going to be hard to replace, but they're going to work hard at doing so.
Well, and I think if you asked most of those guys at the beginning of the season, 6-8-2, would that be a good enough record? I think most of them felt they let a few of those get away from them there. Would have liked to have seen it 8-6-2, maybe even better than that. Back-to-back seasons, though, with 6 wins for the program. Now they're going to be really challenged to try and move forward next year.
Those are things to build on, and that's going to be their main goal for next season. We really had no idea what to expect from the girls soccer team this year. With a new coach and a lot of holes left from graduation, it would really be anyone's guess. What we did know is that the Cardinals had several returning letter winners, and that Carl Worley would bring us lifetime of soccer knowledge and an infectious enthusiasm to the position as their new leader. Cardinals didn't have a lot of success this season, but they did set a foundation from which to start. They clearly struggled on offense all season long. They were shut out 7 times and held at just 1 goal in 3 more games. Fortunately, their defense kept them in most games. The Cardinals gave up 4 or more only 3 times, and they were on the fun side of a shutout twice in their wins over Osseo and Irondale. It seemed they were figuring more things out toward the end of the season as well, being more competitive and putting a little more pressure on opposing teams. They finished with a 3-13 record, but got the highlight of the year with a dramatic shootout win over Spring Lake Park in the section tournament. Their season ended with a loss to eventual state runner-up Maple Grove, who didn't allow a postseason goal until the championship game. But that win over the Panthers could pay bigger dividends than just getting them to the semifinals. It's the kind of win that the team can build on. A memory of that feeling, encouraging the players coming back, pushing them to achieve more. It was the hope as the Cardinals go on this offseason anyway to be able to achieve those kind of goals.
Yeah, I hope that is the case. You get a big win like that, it gives you a boost. There are your seniors. There are quite a few of them. Genevieve Swanson, Brianna Rasmussen, Riley Showquist Nolan, Maddie Bloomquist, Alyssa Brazier, Mackenzie Langenfeld, Courtney and Caitlin Ackerman, and Maddie Haas.
Again, some leaders and some goal scorers that they're losing. And Coach Worley, certainly, as we talked about, a lot of soccer knowledge. And, he's a great guy.
We really lucked out with, we had 3 new coaches out of 7 teams coming into the season. Great to work with all 3 of them. But it's almost impossible not to smile when you talk to Coach Worley. He's so enthusiastic and excited and always very positive, and
it gets us excited.
Absolutely. Love talking with him and look forward to working with him into the future. Hopefully, they'll be able to figure a few more pieces out too as they get this, get used to new systems as well.
Correct. Absolutely, no question.
Well, last, Howie, but certainly not least, it's time to talk a little bit of football. What an exciting season for the Cardinals football squad, and hopefully it's just the beginning. The move to a 5A schedule gave the team a chance to be more competitive and find a little bit of much-needed success this season. It was a roller coaster ride that the Cardinals fans were excited to take. There were ups and downs all year, but it clearly energized the team and its fans. After losing a heartbreaker in overtime in the season opener, the Cardinals broke their 23-game losing streak by beating new division rival Forest Lake 16-8 in Week 2. It was the first win in nearly 3 full seasons. Cardinals took flight from there. They dominated Park Center in the home opener, ripping off a bunch of big plays on their way to a 41-13 win. They followed that by winning a defensive battle over Irondale for homecoming and beating Spring Lake Park on the road. 4 straight put them at 4-1, and they were the talk of the town. Unfortunately, losses to Chanhassen and Armstrong brought them right back down to earth. Cardinals finished the regular season with a win over Hopkins, but they were upset by 6th-seeded St. Francis in the section semifinal. They finished 5-4 overall. It's the first winning record for the Cardinals in a long time, but they're hoping it will become a trend. There will need to be some rebuilding, though. The Cardinals will lose a lot of seniors that did a lot of the heavy lifting this year. Tyler George was his team's starting quarterback most of the season, and Jalen Salazar was their leading rusher. The top 4 receivers and most of their line on offense will also move on. And the story is similar on the defensive side, as many of these guys were playing both ways. Caleb Ness was their second leading receiver and led the team's defense with 99 tackles. And Matt Ammon led the team with 5.5 sacks and 3 interceptions. Deion McMahon with that big interception return you're watching right there, another one. That's just a couple. It was a lot of fun this season, and these boys deserve to enjoy every second of it. But this team will really need to get to work if they hope to turn this success into a tradition. They do have some nice pieces coming back. It was a lot of fun.
Look at all those seniors.
I mean, Roland Green, Ricky Soto. There's a couple of your linemen. Austin Alexander, another one of your linemen. I'm not going to go through the whole list because there's just way too many of them. But you look at that, and those were names that we were talking about every week on Friday night. Nawachi, Ness, Silla, the starting safety for the last couple of seasons. They're going to have a lot of.
I'll tell you what, though,
fill.
For those young men, those seniors, they've been through the downs mostly in the last number of years, and for them to end their senior season, not the way they initially wanted to, but with a winning record, that's great, and that's a big improvement for them. I love what the Coach Edwards is doing and his staff. I love the direction that they're going in. I think they've turned a corner in this program, and it's really, you talked about putting in the work in the offseason, continuing to get the numbers, but I really like the direction this team is going.
I agree with everything you said, and early on, especially during the 4-game win streak, I had a lot of people coming up and asking me, isn't it so much more exciting? Yes, it is more exciting. But I was waiting for, in some respects, the other shoe to fall because you knew they couldn't win it all. I was hoping they could go and just push right through. But one of the things people asked a lot about, they said, is it all because they switched to 5A? 5A definitely played a big part. But I think this was a team that brought back so much talent from last year, a team that was winless last year, but boy, did they take their lumps and they were ready to give some back. I think they had a lot of talent, and I think this is a team that would have won had they stayed in their regular Northwest Suburban Conference schedule. I think they still would have won at least a couple of games this year.
Patrick Ricey had an article earlier in the season that mentioned Coon Rapids and moving down to 5A, and felt that they were a team that maybe should have stayed up in the 6A division. But
I wholeheartely disagree.
I think totally disagree as well.
Any team, if you finish around 500, you're competing at the right level. Yep. Any team that obviously, except those teams that have one spectacular season, but if you're winning everything or losing everything, you're playing at the wrong level. It's more fun, and they learn that you get more out of the sports by being competitive in them than to be on one side or the other. Yeah,
you look back at the season, obviously getting the number 2 seed and really a disappointing loss to St. Francis. They had that week off. Did that affect them? I don't know. Did St. Francis snow on the ground? St. Francis was on a roll.
It was a season where the first 5 or 6 weeks they had absolutely ideal conditions for football, almost through the entire regular season.
But that team was built for this kind of weather, though. They're built for defense to stop the run. They're also built to run the ball as well. It just didn't work out, unfortunately, against St. Francis. But you take those things and you move them forward to next season.
And on the other side, couldn't have done it all the first year. You got to leave something out there, right?
I understand.
Got to leave
I understand.
Got to leave a little something out there.
Yeah, okay. All right. We'll take that. We'll take that one.
But yeah, it was absolutely a lot of fun, and again, a good coach to work with. Look forward to working with Coach Edwards moving forward, and I'm sure that they do have some really nice pieces coming back. I could name names, but I'm not going to. And I believe they've got plenty of kids in that school that they'll be able to fill a nice roster.
That'll be the key, getting more numbers and continue to getting more numbers, and that I think will be the biggest thing for them next year, to get that depth.
Hard to believe that the fall season is
Goes quickly.
over. All wrapped up with a pretty little bow. We will update you on what happens with the swimming and diving team when we start the winter schedule. Here's what we have as far as a winter event schedule. Girls hockey team always starts before anyone else. We'll be at Burnsville on Tuesday the 14th for their season opener, and then their home opener at the Ice Forum, the new Coon Rapids and Champlain Park Cooperative, will be on Tuesday the 21st. And then we'll see the boys hockey team for the first time on Tuesday the 28th. Those games all coming up here in November. Between now and then, we're going to get a chance to talk to new AD Kurt Walrath and get a preview of the girls hockey program with new head coach, an interview with head coach Jim Coltis. We're hoping to get that for you next week on Sportsnight, and then we'll have a full review a couple weeks after that. But it's been a lot of fun through the fall season. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us and continuing to support everything we do here at CTN. For the entire crew, including Howie Shapiro, I'm Joe Young, saying good night.